Good morning, everyone. I'm Joe Serra. Thank you for attending the conference today. A couple of housekeeping issues before we start. Please make sure your microphone is turned off on the bottom of the screen to keep the noise down. Meanwhile, Chris Fisher, who's the moderator, will try to keep inadvertent microphones turned off as well. This will be a 30-minute webinar. We promise we'll get you out of here by 9:30. There will be time for questions at the end. The way to submit questions would be to go ahead. There's a chat feature on your screen, and if you go ahead and type those questions in at the end of the webinar, Chris will answer those questions. I'm going to take about 5 minutes to talk about a little bit about what STI is doing, and then I'm going to turn this over to Jen Arcaro to talk about the ChartMaker Go Mobile app for your phone, which I think is really a pretty neat product. And right now there's no cost for it. So I would say go ahead and give it a try. Could I have the next slide, please, Jen? I'm sure everybody has changed, but since March 23rd of 2020, with the introduction of the COVID disease into the society, we've changed quite a bit. There was a book out about 15 years ago from Tom Friedman of the New York Times called "The World is Flat." And his premise was, in the future, the personal computer and the internet were going to change everything. And that was really the case for most industries, with the exception of the medical industry. And it seems like all of us in medicine didn't really grasp that concept. But all of a sudden, with COVID-19, patients didn't want to come into the office anymore, and they were concerned about catching a disease, and all of a sudden our amount of business was drying up in most practices and medical facilities. Also, there's a lot of complicated new issues that are occurring through medical insurance companies, including MIPS and ACOs, that require practices to provide more and more information through their computer. So with the advent of cloud-based technology, which STI is now using quite extensively, as a matter of fact, currently almost all of our employees are telecommuting from home and only go into the office when they need to do something. You can function quite well outside the office if you have the ability to access centralized information. And that's exactly what the cloud-based technology does, allows people to access information. And in some cases, we've been doing that for years. I know in X-rays and MRIs, a lot of those readings are being done at night in Europe while we sleep. So the combination of the cloud and the computer really helps. Next slide. So we've introduced quite a few products that allow you to use the cloud. One is, as I mentioned in the last slide, ChartMaker Go, which is a version of our software. It's exactly the same, except instead of having a server in your office, STI actually handles those servers. We do backup, and we do program loading for you. And what's nice about it, you can access information from anywhere. You don't need to have a computer in the office connected to your server. You can go to a computer at home. You can see a computer at the hospital. If you're on vacation, you can get to your computers. I have a lot of doctors that go overseas for the summer or for a vacation, and they can actually work from anywhere. The other product that we're going to talk about today is the smartphone application, which allows you to access your appointment schedule, enter charges, call a patient from your records in the office right from your phone. And with managed services, and that's STI's hardware division, we can even monitor your computers remotely and let us know when something is failing. So we can literally show up to your office to fix something before it actually breaks. And then, of course, there's telemedicine software. There's electronic faxing. You don't need to have a fax machine anymore. You can fax from anywhere, including home, with cloud-based faxing. Patient reminders and recalls can be done electronically and sent to patients. You can even use a phone system that's based in the cloud, and that's called voice over IP, where your internet can be used for your phone system. So when a time comes to buy a new phone system, certainly capture us. The patient portal is a good example of cloud-based technology. I was actually on a cruise in the middle Atlantic Ocean, and I had a question from my doctor, and I just picked up my computer and I sent him a message, and he replied while I was in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. So all of that, e-prescribing, e-faxing, all of these things are cloud-based. So if you have an old server and the time comes to replace it, before you do that, check with us about going to the cloud. Next slide. We also have a program now called Revenue Cycle Optimization, which is something we started about 10 years ago. We're finding in some practices they're having a hard time when a biller retires, replacing that biller. So STI has a program that actually will help you do your billing if you're on the cloud, in that the practice is entering patient information, doing charge entry, and doing eligibility. Meanwhile, STI's what we call RCM billing division can act as your back office and literally send out the bills, post payments, and send out patient information like statements all electronically if we can share your cloud system. So if anybody's having a problem finding a biller after a biller retires, certainly talk to us. We have the ability to help you with that as well. So that being said, next slide. I'm going to turn all that over to Jen Arcaro, who's going to present the ChartMaker Go mobile application for you. And I'll be back at the end of the session to go through questions. And again, thank you for attending.
Hi, good morning, everyone, and welcome to our ChartMaker Go mobile app webinar. This is a smart app which captures charges on your mobile device. My name is Jen Arcaro in the Professional Services Department, and we also have Chris Fisher on the phone in our Sales Department for your calls later, your questions. STI's ChartMaker mobile app is used in tandem with the ChartMaker Clinical and Practice Manager. You can install the app on either an iPhone or Android system. Your patient data is password protected and HIPAA secure, of course. We will review today how the app works on your phone and show the billing side that your staff uses on the Practice Manager side. The app opens with a HIPAA secure password, or you can opt now to set your fingerprint to use instead of typing in that password. Each staff has their own login, and the app has auditing under each unique user. We're allowed an unlimited number of users right now. Once STI starts your office's mobile app syncing to Practice Manager, you will assign a manager or a super user to set up preferences and procedure lists similar to a charge slip or super bill with your most used procedure code. So all mobile users will have access to the list, as many lists as you need to create. You can separate each of them, such as the sample ones you see here. Also, you are able to create your own personal favorites list by marking a little heart icon, which only that user can access. Each can search from the full book of codes. Your home screen gives you quick access to each area you may need, and I'll go through the links with you now. We'll start with that patient link. So when searching existing patients, they'll type in a few letters of their last name, and the results will show their date of birth and account number to help identify the correct chart. While the default search is by last name, you can select to search instead of by date of birth or phone number or account number. And then you'll touch that patient you need to open their mobile page. For adding a brand new patient, this can be done from multiple areas on the app. You simply click the Add New Patient icon you see circled in yellow here. That icon is found on the patient link, the charge link, and the rounds link. All that's required to add a new patient is the patient's name, date of birth, and sex. You can add a hospital admit date if you need that. And that date, by the way, is helpful for billing, as the inpatient hospital charges must include the patient admission date. Later, your office staff will add insurance and demographics that you provide from hospital face sheets. Practice Manager has a quick list your staff can pull to see which patients you may have newly added from the app to help them make sure they can collect those face sheets. Each patient has their home screen set with easy access for you on that bottom row. The default is patient in teal on this screenshot. This shows the patient's date of birth, home address, cell, and work phone numbers, insurance and details of all your normal medical coverage, and any no-fault or workers' comp coverage. There's a quick look at last and next appointment dates. Pharmacy shows from what your staff has entered in ChartMaker Clinical, and that also allows you to see the pharmacy name, address, and a teal link to call the pharmacy directly. Health proxies are also available. This would allow for the convenience of a family member who is calling on the patient's behalf. You could confirm that they have signed that proper HIPAA paperwork without having to call your staff to know that you can or cannot speak to that person. The next on the bottom row icon is Health. So that's the second teal icon. It shows what you have on the face sheet of ChartMaker Clinical. So any advanced directives, allergies, meds, diagnoses. Each of those can be opened for more detail. When we're entering charges later, you'll have access to quickly select these diagnoses from the chart if they're appropriate for today's visit. The fourth item at the bottom is records. If you enter patient office visit notes into ChartMaker Clinical, you can access those from here. The link allows you to open each full note to scroll through. It's color-coded by the folders you have already set in ChartMaker Clinical, and you can sort for a specific folder that you need if necessary. Also, this screen shows any electronic lab results that you receive directly into Clinical, and those allow you to scroll through each result. So now it's time to see charge entry. On the third teal icon at the bottom, the patient's charges link can be accessed from all four main screens. So that little dollar sign with the charge. Each screen has that same dollar sign link so that you could go to that patient's history of charges sent from your mobile app. You can click on a visit to see details of each procedure and diagnosis and any notes that may have been entered on a charge. The most used feature is our copy link. So this allows you to quickly create a charge for today using the same procedure and diagnosis codes from a past visit. As that opens, when you copy, you could still edit the procedure code or remove and add from the diagnosis list as well. It is such a time saver to have the system copy the provider and facility and practice while still given the ability to tweak it as necessary for today. Also, the date itself, the date of visit, can be edited as you're not always entering today's work. If you have a provider who sends the charge but needs an additional billing provider, such as a supervising MD, to be on that charge, you are now able to set that billing provider separately from the service provider. The last item on a charge before it is sent is the comments box. So on your cell phone, your keyboard has a little mic icon shown in yellow there. This allows you to dictate a note either for the biller or even for your own ChartMaker clinical to copy and paste later if you are documenting some outside visits here. Providers sometimes need to add a quick comment for a biller if they cannot find a certain diagnosis they wanted, or if they had a question about using a modifier. The claim in Practice Manager will contain that note, which is only seen by the biller, is not set out with any billing batch. It's just a little note saved with the charge that the biller will be able to read before processing the full claim. Another suggestion, we've seen a provider dictating a short comment for the staff to make a follow-up appointment, such as your standard TCM visit needed for the 7 to 10 days after discharge. Each time you're finished entering charges for a patient, you're taken to this main charge screen displayed on that right side, which tallies up your entries for the day. So the provider name at the top, and it gives you the total number of charges, those daily stats at the bottom. You can change that provider number at the top if you need to access another provider. But each user, if you are the provider, your name will automatically be there at the top. This will allow you to reconcile your charge entry with a hospital or nursing home list of patients that you had seen today to make sure you didn't miss sending any charges over. On the Office PC side, your staff is setting up appointments, marking them as confirmed, rescheduling, even setting as checked in or collecting copay on the Practice Manager software. You have access on the mobile app to see any provider schedule and the total patients for each facility, plus details of the appointment in case notes were written by your staff on that appointment. From the details page on the right screenshot, you can click on the teal link for the chart number to see the full chart of this patient, or the phone link to call the patient. I have had a few managers report that this page saves them on the bad weather days if the office is opening a little later because of snow or even a power outage. They can call directly those first few morning patients before they even leave their house. The rounds view is where I see facility patients who have admit dates set in Practice Manager. And we can view charge history here, as well as discharge a patient after billing your final visit. That discharge date from the mobile app goes directly into the Practice Manager side. so that the billing claims can include that date that you have required for claim. You can also get the full chart from this page. You can mark a patient as skipped if they were not available for your round. And for charge entry, it's quick to copy the last visit if code's similar today, or you can create a new visit from scratch. These would include anyone that your practice manager side has on that patient screen hospitalization book. So back in Practice Manager, this is the list that your office staff can pull to see which brand new patients you may have entered on the mobile today, because they wouldn't have the full demographics and insurance and hospital information, but they'll know that they need to get that paperwork and type that into Practice Manager so that they can send the claim that you may have already passed over. All of your charges on the mobile app can be sent before that full Practice Manager screen is filled out, but they'll never be formally saved and filled out until that information is finished. Under Practice Manager Charge tab, any charges that you've sent for the mobile app, your biller will review and approve each line item under this Pending Charges tab. Any notes that you dictated into the charge itself on your app will be seen here, and they are saved with the claim, or the biller could delete it if it doesn't need to be saved. But again, that note that you may write or dictate into your mobile app is not going out to billing. It is simply more direction or extra support for that charge that you've sent. You can trust STI to be the right choice for your medical practice. We've installed over 3,000 practices since 1979. And the ChartMaker mobile app allows more flexibility for where and when you can enter your patient visits. And you can install this on either the iPhone or an Android cell phone. This concludes our presentation today. And Chris, if there's any chat questions, or if you haven't yet put your question into the chat, that will help us answer those, or myself as well.
Jen, I do have two questions. The first one, can you only get to that microphone in the charge screen?
Oh, that is an interesting question. Yeah, I think so.
Okay. The second question, and I believe that you answered it, but maybe if you went over it again, where do the mobile charges go? How does the biller know that there are charges there?
Right. So that may have been asked before this screen came up. The Pending Charges subtab under that main charge screen, where normally the biller is going to enter a charge, they would be able to check the pending charges, and that will show the multiple patients that have claims going over. The other nice thing that Practice Manager does, if I did not go to the pending charges, but instead I went to enter a charge, let's say I have an office that sometimes fills out the super bill and sometimes enters charges on the mobile. If my biller opened this patient to enter a charge from scratch, thinking we're just doing a new claim from a super bill, there is an auto pop-up that will say, this patient has a charge pending on that little pending charges tab. Do you want to go there? So then your staff would know, oh, it's already pre-filled out, and they can go check it.
I have
Once
another.
they open, oh, sorry, yes, next question.
Okay, Jen, another comment, it said it would be great if you could dictate the messages when you're out of the office. The doctor has to come back and open notes for all the messages when the office is closed.
So if it's not too, I can't remember. We did test this. I had a provider who wanted to do that, so we made a fake patient called Notes. So then, but I think they ended up putting it on regular. It is absolutely possible, because what you might want to do is you could create a fake charge. So here it is, down at the bottom of the screenshot. We must have done it here. See that second to last CPT code, the procedure code that says Note. So our system allows you to make a fake procedure code, and so you could have it on the patient needs to be on a charge that's not technically a charge, but that you just use CPT code of Note, and then you could dictate a little bit of your visit or all of the visit. I believe that it's more than a page worth of text that you can put in the dictation note. So, and I have to test it again to be sure how many characters it allows, but it was quite a lot of characters when we tested that. And then someone on the practice manager side here, when you open up that charge, they would be able to copy that full note and then paste it wherever you needed it, whether you use ChartMaker Clinical or you're putting it into a Word document and just printing it for a paper chart. So that's something I can help someone with if you wanted to reach out to me later this week or next week.
Another question, Jen. When was the mobile app last updated?
Last week, I believe. We just made a new change that the provider and a billing provider are both now options on the charge to select. So that was just updated, I believe it was last week.
Okay. And this last comment was in regard to what you were speaking about just previously in dictating the notes. So it is possible to copy and paste the note into the person's clinical chart.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Now, it won't be pretty. It'll just be all text, so you don't have to kind of paragraph it. But it's definitely doable, absolutely.
Okay. I think that's it. Thank you.
I have a couple.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah, Joe.
I have a couple comments. We brought this app out for those practices that are seeing patients in hospitals and nursing homes, and actually it was a request by a large infectious disease practice years and years ago. And what typically happens with paper-based systems is you see patients, but you don't get all the notes, you don't get all the charges, and they never get back to billing. So obviously you're losing compensation. You're doing the work, but you're not being paid. This allows you from the bedside to actually enter a charge, and it is at the billing office immediately. The other nice thing about this, for this practice, they had multiple docs. So Dr. A would see the patient on Monday, and Dr. B would see the patient on Tuesday. With the mobile app, you can actually see what the last provider did, so you can pick up right where that person left off. And Jen mentioned this, but I want to reiterate it. If the first doctor puts a charge in yesterday and you walk in to see the patient, it's exactly the same thing. You can clone that charge, just change the date and change the provider, and that information is all there for you. So not only does this application save a lot of lost revenue, but it also allows you to be more productive. The final comment I want to make, this practice was using another product. They were being charged $150 a month for 9 doctors. So they were spending over $1,000 a month to use this third-party product, and it didn't even interface with their software. It just went into a cloud-based area where they can look at it. This application is actually interfacing with your practice manager and ChartMaker information, so you can see what's going on at the office, and you're putting information right to the biller or to the RCM division if you're using an outside billing source, and they can go right into that patient's chart and drop it in after they review it. So it's a terrific application. If you haven't tried it, give it a try. Finally, before I let you go, we're having 2 more webinars coming up in August you may want to attend. One on what we call rev cycle optimization for medical and surgical centers, and also one for practices on using our billing application. I happen to see a typo there, by the way. That webinar isn't on August 24th. That webinar now has been changed to August 3rd. So feel free to attend those. And we have webinars for our customers every month. I believe the next one we're going to have is in August, and we're going to talk about a brand new feature that allows you to let patients pay online and, more importantly, receive patient statements on their phone. So thank you for attending today. Last chance for questions, Chris.
Nope, that's it. Thank you.
All right, everybody. 9:31, not bad. Thanks for attending.